Hi, my name is Randalyn Hunter, and I did my presentation on alcohol effects, impacts, and treatments. Okay, so I wanted to start with what alcohol is. It's basically any beverage that contains ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Basically, this is made out of the process called fermentation, which combines yeast and any type of sugar. Usually, alcohol is made with like grains or fruits, and this results in two substances, ethanol and carbon dioxide. And ethanol is actually the alcohol that people drink. There's different types of ethanol, but if you drink any other type, you're most likely going to die. This is the one that we call alcohol. So I wanted to go over the standard drink. Most people don't really know what the standard drink is. It's different for each type of liquor. For example, 12 ounces of beer is like the same alcohol as 8 to 9 ounces of malt liquor, 5 ounces of wine, and 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits or like hard liquor shots. So one alcoholic drink is basically equivalent to roughly 14 grams of pure alcohol. Alcohol prevalence. So it's really prevalent in today's society to use alcohol. 86.3% of people ages 18 or older have reported that they've drank some type of alcohol in their lifetime, which is a substantial amount. And then 70% of people drank alcohol in the past year, and then over half the population in the US said that they drank alcohol in the past month. So that's a lot of people drinking. Nearly 11 million people underage have consumed alcohol in the US, and also it's prevalent among high schoolers and even in middle school. So alcohol is definitely a really huge part of our society. Binge drinking and blood alcohol content. So this is a really big topic. I feel like binge drinking is a huge thing in youth. 26.45% of people ages 18 or older have engaged in binge drinking in the past month. And 1 in 6 teens binge drink. And then basically binge drinking, a lot of people didn't know that, or like don't know this, and I actually just learned this, is it's basically excessively consuming alcohol in a short amount of time to where your blood alcohol content is actually above the legal limit of driving. And I thought binge drinking was like a lot more than that, but basically it's only 0.08. So this works out to be about 5 drinks for men and 4 for women in less than 2 hours. Okay, so effects of alcohol on brain addiction. This is short-term brain effects. So it basically slows down the neurotransmitter GABA, which is responsible for the slurred speech, slow movement, and reaction time that you would see someone who is under the influence. In addition, it also speeds up the neurotransmitter glutamate, which is responsible for regulating dopamine, and this is what causes the euphoria or pleasure feelings that you get when you consume alcohol. Alcohol also affects the occipital, temporal, and frontal lobes. The occipital lobe affects like your vision. It can get blurry. The temporal lobe affects your speech and like your hearing, and the frontal lobe affects your like control and coordination. The parietal lobe is also affected, and this can cause loss of like fine motor skills and slower reaction times. The cerebellum is a huge part in like our coordination, and when that's impacted, this can like impair your walking and standing abilities. And then lastly, the hippocampus is responsible for making memories, and this is basically what's affected and what makes you like not remember when you're drinking and like blacking out in like a state of unconsciousness. So The effects of alcohol, long-term addiction on the brain. A study by Archives of Neurology said that heavy drinking actually can shrink your brain and contribute to large amounts of memory loss in early old age. So that's pretty common to see memory loss, or like mostly like Alzheimer's and stuff like that with heavy drinkers. It can lead to increased risk for certain type of cancers. There's also evidence that it can cause brain cancer, so that's why I put this in there. And also severe brain damage. Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome is also common, and it's basically just a lack of vitamin B1 or thiamine. And this causes amnesia, extreme confusion, and visual disturbances. So basically, it's kind of like memory loss and all those other things that we've already talked about. And then there's also evidence linking it to depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and dependence on alcohol. And this is common because it is a depressant, so these things are more likely to happen when you're drinking. So effects of alcohol, it doesn't just affect your brain, it affects your whole body. Drinking has been proven to actually be good for your health, and it can reduce risk of heart disease and stroke, but that is only for limited drinking. This most of the time, drinking can affect your body in negative ways. That's I don't think that drinking really is that great for you. Too much alcohol can cause liver inflammation, and some of these side effects include fatty liver, alcoholic hepatitis, fibrosis, and cirrhosis. Alcohol also contributes to a lot of heart disease, cardiomyopathy, which is basically the stretching of the heart muscle, which is never good. Arrhythmias, which is irregular heartbeat, stroke, and high blood pressure. Pancreatitis is also a huge one in alcoholism, and anyone that drinks excessive amounts of alcohol, which is basically just the inflammation of the pancreas, and it can be deadly. And the reason why this one is so big is because the symptoms aren't as noticeable, and usually they come about when it's already like really, really bad and too late. Alcohol has also been linked to many types of cancer, and alcohol causes the stomach to produce more acid than normal, which can lead to acid reflux, inflammation, and stomach lining gastritis, which is the inflammation of the stomach. The kidneys also can be affected by alcohol because they're responsible for filtering the blood, and if they're constantly filtering alcohol, this can lead to kidney disease. Okay, so alcohol plays actually a huge part in violence. It has been linked to a lot of criminal activities and violence, and this is because excessive drinking can has the ability to lower inhibitions, impair personal judgment, and increase the risk of aggressive behaviors. And it was actually found that roughly 40% of inmates who were incarcerated for violent offenses were under their influence, which I thought that was really interesting. And it plays the biggest role in robberies and homicides, which are very violent acts. Alcohol is also linked to aggression. So the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism says that 696,000 students between the ages 18 and 24 were assaulted by another student who had been drinking, and actually 97% or 97,000 students between the ages of 18 and 24 reported alcohol-related sexual assault or date rape, which that's really common, I feel like, especially on college campuses, since alcohol is so prevalent. And then there was also a study found that alcohol actually increases the likelihood that certain drinkers, particularly those with the tendency to be angry, it actually makes them become more aggressive, and that's been proven. And then it just increases the likelihood of rape, abuse, and domestic violence. So, alcohol and driving under the influence. I feel like this is a huge issue in today's society. We've made a lot of steps to like help this, but I still think it's a big problem that we have today. Each year, drunk driving injures 290,000 people and kills 10,000. And honestly, that's so preventable. So I just feel like we need to keep working towards making improvements on this. A DUI offense involves operating a vehicle with a blood alcohol content of at least 0.08%. So that's not that much. And if you're caught with that in your system, it can be a DUI or even worse. In some states, I think it's a felony, if I'm correct. Safe driving requires the ability to concentrate, make good judgments, and quickly react. And as we learned in the previous slides, alcohol affects all of those. So it's really dangerous to drive under the influence. And it actually costs the US $44 billion each year just in alcohol-related crashes. And not only does it affect the person drinking, so if you drink, it also affects like people around you. So you're being really selfish when you drink and drive, because it doesn't just affect you. So some of the things that you can do to prevent your driving under the influence is just find a designated driver. If you're going out, you need to have someone that will volunteer to not drink and make sure you guys all get home safe. It's really important that you know your limits. I feel like a lot of people don't. So this is what makes it really dangerous when you don't know and you overdrink. You just have to be responsible and aware of who has drove and like know like if they're not okay, be able to take their keys and like not let them drive. There's really no excuses for drinking and driving, honestly. There's so many ways that you can get a ride. There's friends, Uber, Lyft, taxis, etc. Like literally there's no excuse. So I don't get why people do it, but and then activities don't always have to include drinking, so you can do something fun that doesn't require it, and then you all get home safe. And then obviously don't mix alcohol and any sort of prescription drugs or even drugs. And then what also helps is eating before you drink. It was actually found that food helps slow the absorption of alcohol in the circulatory system. And then some consequences for drinking and driving. Obviously, there's going to be offenses on your record. In some states, it's a felony. Every criminal or state criminalizes DUI offenses and allows people to go to court, jail, have fines, and other criminal penalties. There's a possibility of injuring or killing yourself or others. Your vehicle can be taken or confiscated. You can be put on probation. You could be forced to go to alcoholism treatments, and you could have driving restrictions. So basically, what is alcoholism? Alcoholism is known as like an alcohol use disorder. It's basically when a person just desires a physical need for alcohol and it has a negative impact on their life. People who have this condition are most known for being called alcoholics. They spend a lot of their time thinking about alcohol. They can't control how much they consume, and it usually affects their lives a lot and causes problems at home, work, and financially. According to the National Institute of Health, 15.1 million adults have an alcohol use problem, and that's a lot of people. So we really need to crack down on like alcohol use and recognize that it is a big problem in society. So basically, people become alcoholics for many reasons, but Anaheim Lighthouse has narrowed it down to 5, and I feel like these 5 are really, really, really the main ones. So genetics, it actually has been proven that alcoholism can run in families. Your genetics can make it more likely for you to crave the alcohol and like develop a dependency for it. Trauma is a big one because people that go through a traumatic event usually want to forget about it, so they take up substance abuse to deal with their mental feelings about the event, and that can include anywhere from like assault to any mental trauma that a person has experienced. Your environment's also a really big one. If you've grown up living like with someone who has an alcohol problem, that's what you've seen. That can affect it. What you live with, if you have to deal with a lot of stress, etc., that can affect it. Peer pressure is a big one. If your friends are doing it, you're gonna want to do it. I feel like that's a big one in college, and like in youth. I feel like that's a huge reason why people drink and people that underage drink is peer pressure. And then also mental illness, depression, anxiety, etc. People have these disorders, and they use alcohol as a buffer for them to not feel it as much or deal with their problems. So treatment options on alcoholism: you can get an alcohol detox at a hospital. There's alcohol counseling available. You can go to rehab and they will help you there. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, serves as an information hub, and there's a whole bunch of information online and treatment referral services you can use. They give a phone number that you can call for information on support and treatment facilities in your area. Also, I liked this is there's actually pharmaceutical drugs you can take that help with alcoholism. Antabuse or disulfiram works as a deterrent against drinking because it makes one like sick when they drink it, so it like kind of just like makes you not want to drink it because you're gonna feel awful. Naltrexone blocks the effect of alcohol in the brain and reduces the alcohol craving, so like this can help people that like crave it. A Camprosate or Camprol relieves the distress and discomfort of alcoholics experience when they stop drinking. So like when you're trying to quit, this could be of use because people generally go back to it if they don't like the feeling without it. And also there's different support groups like Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that you can go to where people will help you and they've gone through the same experience and they can share their stories. And then that's it. Here's my references. Yeah. Thank you.